I want to start off this talk today by having you imagine a troop of baboons in Kenya, East Africa. The troop includes the group of baboons that all live together, sleep together, groom each other, and they like to get on each other's nerves. But some of the baboons are definitely bigger bullies than others. Baboons operate within their own social hierarchy, with those at the top constantly showing their power through physical force, taking resources, not really sharing, and basically bullying those lower on the totem pole. So those that are have-nots, they get dominated through violence by those who are higher on the social ladder. And this creates a very stressful environment where they're always living on the edge and they don't know when they're going to be tormented. Now, in research done by Robert Sapolsky in Kenya, Africa, he studied this troop that I'm trying to describe, and he looked into the effects that stress had on them. It turned out that the have-nots had high blood pressure, elevated stress hormones, and a vulnerable reproductive system. And we see the same effects in humans experiencing high levels of stress. When we think about how humans operate in society, there are many social orders that people live within, whether that be socioeconomic status, home and work environments. For example, at work, people may feel bombarded with piles of work, lots to do, and they might feel like they have to get in on their boss's good side. And there are times when we feel that our lives might not be in our own control as much as we want, with a lot to do and seemingly so little time to do it. I'm sure a lot of people have faced, stressful situations such as that. And I do want to talk more about this idea of stress and our body's response to stress. Within the autonomic nervous system, which deals with involuntary bodily responses, there's the sympathetic nervous system, and this is the system that's activated during emergencies and stressful situations. It's our stress response, our fight or flight response. And our body works to respond to stress, adapt to the perceived threat, and pushes epinephrine and cortisol hormones throughout our body to help adapt to the stressor. So that's the stress response. And you may have heard of two different types of stress, acute stress and chronic stress. Acute stress usually goes away when the situation resolves short term, but what I want to focus on is chronic stress, which is long lasting and really persists when there's no direct threat at hand. And it's this state of heightened alertness that can wear down the body. And for example, financial trouble, job trouble, that can bring on chronic stress. It can really ultimately change the way the immune system functions, and chronic stress can bring on poor sleep quality and insomnia, poor gut health, even a shorter lifespan. So stress has actually been linked to all of the leading causes of death, such as heart disease and cancer. And it a lot of times may negatively affect people's interpersonal relationships, job performance, school performance, and heightened stress can bring on difficulties with focusing, even a negative impact on memory in the long term. So, as I said, stress activates the stress response, producing cortisol. Cortisol relates to inflammation in the body, and inflammation is a natural response in the body, especially to tissue damage, say like a cut or a bruise. So this can be normal, but in long-term chronic stress, this process can change the way the immune system functions. So chronic low-grade inflammation, as it's called, can lead to negative outcomes such as cardiovascular disease and cancer. So I'm not trying to say that if you're stressed, you're going to have, for sure, negative health outcomes. There are a lot of factors in between that can hurt or help health outcomes when it comes to stress. So there's mediating forces, as they can be called. for example, stress appraisal, or how individuals evaluate a stressor, mood and self-esteem, feelings of personal control, which I'll talk more about later, as well as positive or negative health behaviors. So these mediators influence the body's systems like cardiovascular function, immune function. So it's not exactly where stress leads right to negative health outcomes, but there's these forces that can propel or prevent these outcomes. So some coping strategies people use can either negatively or positively affect these outcomes. So when people are stressed, they may be less likely to follow health recommendations. But you would think this would be an important time to try to follow medical advice and recommendations. But these are often times when people will engage in more negative health behaviors like drinking, maybe drugs, eating more junk food. I mean, I know I've definitely reverted to eating some chips when I've been stressed, but it is important to learn to adapt and adopt beneficial coping styles. And even if you feel the busiest, you feel you don't have time to take care of yourself, that's when it is important. Get in some exercise, eat healthy, do the best you can in that way. So as for exercise, it can lead to neurotransmitters, which are chemical messengers in the brain, being released, such as endorphins. You may have heard of the runner's high, which, runners may feel. It relieves pain. It can feel good. Other neurotransmitters kind of have this effect as well. They can help regulate mood and things of that sort. So exercise can really help not only your physical body, but your mental health, your stress levels as well. Another protective measure that's worth mentioning is the body's relaxation response. So you can think of it as meditation in a way if you're listening this relaxation response. So earlier I said the stress response activates the sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight response, but the relaxation response activates the parasympathetic nervous system, which is the rest and digest response, which deals more with relaxing, and it decreases heart rate, decreases blood pressure, the opposite of the other stress response. So regularly eliciting this relaxation response can really help with anxiety for some people. It has even been seen to help with pain, depression, and other areas. So while stress can take a toll on our body, it is important to take time for ourselves to relax. And this can help with long-term outcomes and even make up for damage that the stress response has caused. So I would like to get back to my opening story about the baboons in Kenya. So these baboons were constantly stressed, on high alert, and they never really knew when they might be tormented by those higher up in the social hierarchy. But something changed in the social situation for these baboons. There was some trash from a nearby resort, and the baboons were looking for some food in there, and turns out some ate some meat that was tainted with tuberculosis, and a lot of the males died, and those were actually the alpha males were the ones to die, who most likely ate most of the meat for themselves. So now the troop was left with 2 times more females than males, and the males who were left were those who were originally lower on the social hierarchy. But this event actually changed the whole culture of the group. There was no more extreme aggression, social connections were made, and the baboons no longer felt like they were going to be attacked at any moment. They felt more control over their lives, which is the personal control aspect that I'm trying to get at here. So now there was a socially amicable culture and a big change for them. So the researcher looked at their health outcomes 20 years later after this culture shift, and they found that there was less negative health outcomes compared to other baboon troops. So really cool, and this can be related to humans as well. So if people feel this lack of personal control in their own lives, feel uncertainty, that can have lasting implications. So say you're in a job where employees do have control over their work and their managers want to hear their contributions. They feel this personal sense of control. It can alleviate some work stress where that can help a lot. And even if it can't be found in your work situation, maybe you could find this personal control element elsewhere, out in the community. Maybe you could become a leader. Maybe you can teach baseball to some kids or something like that and find an area where you feel this sense of purpose. Another new thing for this troop is the sense of belonging, the sense of important social affiliation. That's important for humans as well. Having these social relationships can boost self-esteem, help you feel motivated to take care of yourself, and just, have emotional support. So, like the baboons, try to surround yourself with people who care about your well-being and try to find at least one area of your life where you can feel a sense of personal control and purpose to help combat stress. Thank you.